Before converting this application to TypeScript, let's just proceed, because what I always prefer to have to make the whole concept working in real environment, because this was just a test environment running the Vite development server. For example, let's just change something here. Hello Vite web components. Yeah, so this works great. So let me just stop my dev server. I'm not even making a build, so it's not necessary to deploy the application over to Azure websites using the tools which I'm going to show now. So that is, first let's just because this we don't have Git at the moment initialized, so here in the command palette select Git Initialize Repository and then select Paula 18. This is the default, which brilliant. And then what you can see here, that you have all the files available here. Let me just add a comment that is fetch lit element counter implement lit element counter with ViteJS as bundler. Okay, now I have committed to my local, but this is not on GitHub, so publish to GitHub. This is the icon which I should press at the moment, and then when I click it, it asks publish to GitHub private repository or public. I pick public repository, and then it was opened on GitHub. I'm pretty sure I should be able to find it. GitHub and here you go. I have Paula, and then let me just add a short description here at a lit element TypeScript experimental project with ViteJS as bundler. And for topics, let me select web components lit element lit HTML and ViteJS and TypeScript, just to pick a couple of them. Save changes. Right, and then this was just for making fun. Coming back, the next step is to publish it over to Azure. Let me just open my Azure environment where I have the static web applications. We have an excellent Azure Static Web Apps tool which you can use out of the box to deploy your application as static web app. I have already created a couple of these projects. This is free from Azure, so why not just simply create another one for this Paula 18. It asks Paula 18. I clicked this plus button here, create static web app. That was all. And then West Europe is okay for me. This is custom. Actually really doesn't matter which one to select. And then this is of course the root. If you had multi-repo, that is multiple project in the same repository, there this would be very important to define what is the root location within your repository, your actual application, your actual project. So this is a single project repository, so that's why the root is okay for me. And this is not the build but the dist, because by default ViteJS creates builds the project in the dist folder. I mean the npm run build, which I haven't run, but it's not necessary for this style of publishing. It is going to be the dist folder. And here you go, creating new static web app, Paula 18. And then it says successfully created new static web application, Paula 18. Open actions in GitHub or view edit workflow. No, I don't want to edit workflow, and then I don't want to open actions in GitHub. Instead, what I love to show is that I am this is where it is building. This is the step where this whole process, when I am clicking, it updates this folder, I mean this status report, that how the application is being built. So what's happening behind the scene, that after I published my project over to this GitHub repository, and the static web apps component extension module created a workflow. It is called a workflow, a continuous integration, continuous deployment workflow on GitHub, on the GitHub repository, to deploy the whole application over to the newly freshly created Azure Static Web Application web app. Let's check out, refresh again. Here you go, it's almost started, the build process has been completed, and now the build and deploy is running. Actually, when it is complete, I will have a nice message here. And of course, in the meantime, while it is working, let me just browse, no, the browse star, instead open repo in GitHub. When I open this repo in GitHub and I go to actions, this is where you can see that it is running this workflow. It is called the workflow, and when it is done and completed, then it should be displayed as a green indicator. here also you can have a look of the status if I remember correctly. Yes, this is the step. It's doing build and deploy. Let's go back to Paula and again back to the project. It takes some time. About an hour ago I created another static web app on Azure. That was a lot faster. Actually this static web app is free, so yeah. What I am expecting here is these check marks for each of these bubbles, or if there is an error it will be displayed and shown here too. Deployment for Para has failed. Commit and push changes to the repository to create a new deployment. Yes, I am pretty sure why was it failed. Because open actions in GitHub. Because guess it, because of the TypeScript compiler. So the whole build process is done on the application server, and during the development we didn't have any issue, any problem, but I am pretty sure that when it tried to build we had a compilation errors, reason failure during content distribution. So here are the compilation errors. Error: property count doesn't exist on type counter. Property count implicitly has an any type and doesn't exist. So these compilation errors, because this is the build script, is not okay. So when you are building, so you have to correct them. And why these compilation errors are visible here? Because in our tsconfig JSON, for example, we have, this is what generated by the ViteJS environment. You can, so these were the defaults. No unusual, no implicit returns, and based on these settings here, so that was the problem. Anyhow, so when I'm going to change it over to TypeScript, you will see how it's going to work fine. But that's going to be the topic for the next video.